Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of I Am Christina DiArcangelo. And with me, I have one of my friends and colleagues who works with me or alongside me in the medical cannabis space, Matthew Myro. Thank you so much for joining us, Matthew.
I'm so happy to be here, Christina. It's fun to be on the other end of this after a few interviews with you on my show.
Oh my God, I think we're up to 3 now, aren't we? It's so much fun. I love being on your show. And I thought, you know what? I would love to have you on my show so that you can talk about yourself, because you're right. Usually it's opposite. So you're talking to guests and you're educating people about various topics relatable to medical cannabis. And it's nice to be on the other side, isn't it?
It is. It's fun.
Yeah.
I get to talk about my stuff. Most of the time I'm just trying to get everybody's special juice out to the public and ask all the right questions and make sure that everybody knows what they can offer. But yeah, it's fun. Actually, some things to offer myself. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm excited for you to be able to talk about some of the things that you've been working on and things that you've been passionate about. So, because what I try to do on every show is show the viewers, if they're watching, or the listeners who are listening, the commonality across my guests that come on the show with, the whole hashtag, we are the same. So why don't we get right into it, Matthew, and start talking about you and what you've been doing, and let's just take it from there.
Sure. Yeah. So I guess I'm going to stick in the cannabis category. It's a place where you dwell, and one of the many places, obviously. So I've been in the medical cannabis industry since 2004 and started as a cultivator out in California and did lots of different things, owned several different businesses and nurseries, and from everything from nurseries to home grows to consulting firms, you name it, I did it on the cultivation end. And then my father actually got involved with a startup for a digital platform for medical cannabis, and everybody was smart and had tons of experience in lots of different areas of traditional corporate America, but nobody really knew anything about medical cannabis. And so my dad was like, hey, I think I got a guy, and brought me in. And over the years, we've been doing this for over 3 years now, almost 4, I guess. But I started kind of consulting and sharing what I knew and then introducing them to contacts. And over time, just kind of became fully enmeshed in the company. The company's called CannaLnx, by the way. And it's an incredible platform. And I get to be in charge of the marketing and all the educational content with it now. So naturally, a podcast branched out of it, and I get to do something that I love and bring an amazing product and information about a really cool medicine and plant to lots of people.
To help people feel better at the end of the day. So that's the amazing thing about all this, is that I feel like a lot of the people that we work with have that genuine concern and objective for others, well-being, because a lot of us, like you mentioned, came from all different walks of life and corporate America. I mean, we have big league people that worked on campaigns, presidential campaigns, senators, etc. We've got big lawyers, doctors, all kinds of people that are lined up in this group. And it is I feel, one of the most talented groups out there in the medical cannabis space, because one of the diversity, two, because of the fact that they're all highly educated corporate people who care about people in return.
Absolutely. Yeah. Open minds too. Everyone's willing to learn. Everyone's willing to change and grow and pivot if necessary. And it's really been a pleasure getting to know the folks and being able to be part of the team.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, working alongside you guys with that, because I get to also be a part of many of these people as I get tapped in and out, depending upon what skill set you guys are trying to gather for me. And vice versa. There's times I tap you guys because I need something, like maybe there's somebody in Florida that I'd like to speak with, or maybe there's some patients that we're trying to focus on from a clinical trial standpoint. And because of your software, we know that we can tap you guys to help us along the way. But you're still in the startup phase. So there's a lot more to come. And that's what I feel is so exciting about this company and some of the things that you're doing personally.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's the startup phase is kind of hell. Anyone's ever been involved in the startup, it it can really suck for a while, and we've gone through lots of suck. But we've also had incredible steps forward all along the way. Like even though it feels like a slog because it's been so many years, there's never been any kind of negativity. We've never gotten a no from anybody. It's always been, wow, this is amazing. How can we help you? And we've just been building and building and building and building. And now we've got this massive platform that, like you said, only has more things coming into it as our launches keep growing. And so it's really cool to be a part of. And you know, there's a little bit of, I guess, kind of innate crazy involved with anybody that wants to get into the cannabis industry on the medical side or the adult use side. Like, there's a little bit of advocacy, there's a little bit of activism that's just inherent in being part of this, because you have to be. Because we're still in a weird gray area.
Yeah, and we have to speak up. We have to use our voices because we're blessed enough to have a platform to be able to do that. And not everybody does. And so we need to help all the other patients that necessarily may not feel comfortable speaking up because they're nervous. You know, there's so much stigma, right? I'll never forget in Pennsylvania, you know, our program isn't that like old, you know, it's not like California that's been around forever. We haven't been around more than 4 or 5 years. And I remember we had a dispensary open up in my hometown where I went to high school, elementary school. It was in Phoenixville, PA. And I went to the opening of the dispensary because I wanted to support them, you know, in the space. And it's, wow, this is where I grew up. Phoenixville has a dispensary, like how cool. And I have a medical card. So it's awesome that I can also go to this dispensary because it's not that far from my house. And again, it's where I grew up. I know a lot of people in Phoenixville. I used to have a wellness spa there right downtown. And I remember there was an elderly woman that was standing there next to me on my right-hand side. And there was a younger girl that had, you know, she was new, right? They just opened. And the elderly woman was nervous. She had a medical card, but she was nervous about procuring her products, her medicine, because when she went home, she was afraid that the neighbors would see the bag with the dispensary name on it and then realize that she was taking cannabis. And because it's still considered a Schedule 1, which you were, you know, bringing that point up, Matthew, that was perfect that you did that, even though this isn't scripted. I mean, this is great because, you know, we should talk about this. These poor patients have a card to carry in the states because they're allowed to have it in the state. However, it's state. Federal law supersedes state laws. So you can still get in trouble, even though you have a card that says you're allowed to have this and you got it through the dispensary, which is regulated by the state, completely controlled by the state. But here, this elderly lady was afraid to bring her bag home. And so I explained to her that they will not be using a bag. I'm not working there, but like, you know, I was like, let me help this poor person out because she's like, I could see, I was like, oh, this is okay. Being a patient advocate, I can help you. So I helped the lady, explain to her, this is how it works. It won't be in a bag that you'll be able to identify. 1, 2, nobody will know what's in the bag. You can't see through the bag. Nobody will know that you came. And no one will know that you've come to the dispensary unless they happen to see your car pulling out of the parking lot, which remember, there's a food place right here, Wendy's, and you could have cut through the parking lot to get out. So if anybody said something, if you feel like you need to cover your bases, just tell them you were at the freaking Wendy's getting yourself a damn burger and a Frosty. Yeah. And that's it. And the young girl was like, oh, thank you so much, because I could see like she was starting to like, I don't know what to say, this, you know, and it's just, you know, we're tenured, we're seasoned now, you know, so we know how to talk to these patients so they feel comfortable in their skin. This is medicine. This isn't like we're going out telling people to go ahead and take heroin or something. This is a plant, you know, although, you know, cocaine, you know, but anyway, you know what I'm saying? It's a plant.
Which, by the way, is a Schedule II drug, which
right.
is absurd.
Absurd. And I have people now contacting me. They want me to do, because I'm in the cannabis and the psilocybin space, they want me to do coca tea studies. I'm like, okay, I need to see more science about this, because that's what happened when I got into the cannabis space. I had to read the research, get my knowledge base kind of behind me as much as I could at that time. And then that's when I was able to figure out. Plus, I started taking CBD with my first autoimmune, and I saw it firsthand how much it helped me. So then I became a believer, if you will, with all these studies that I ended up running since then.
Sure, of course. Yeah, it's, I never knew that I was going to be such an advocate for this plant as medicine. And I feel like it's really one of my duties from now until whenever there's no more stigma, to be somebody who's out there promoting real research, promoting quality information and education to people so that they don't have to have the stigma around it. It's not this dangerous, nefarious drug that it was made out to be. I mean, I remember being in high school, we got our hands on Reefer Madness from the 30s, and just got so stoned and laughed our asses off watching it. Like, this is so absurd, but people genuinely believe that crap. And yeah, it's a life mission of mine to change that.
I'm so happy that you are, because you're one of the best people I know to be able to do that. You're very patient. That's one of the things I appreciate about you, because I'm not always patient. I try really hard. Like I really have to step back sometimes because I just want to go. And that's one of the things I love about you, is that you're so patient and you put the time in, because you know that the benefit thereafter is what you're trying to seek. You know what I mean? So it may take 6 or 7 months, to get something down the pathway, but you stay with it, you're committed to its success. And that's one of the things I love about you, Matthew.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
But yeah, it's critical work in this world. I mean, this is medicine. Cannabis is medicine, and on so many different levels. And from a professional life, I like to focus on the researchable? Sure, medical aspects of it. But in my personal life and with the people that I know, we have had all kinds of different uses for this plant that provide wellness, provide healing on more spiritual levels, on more emotional levels, and stuff that's really hard to quantify with research projects, but are very obvious when it comes to people that use the plant for whatever they need it for.
Right. Like if, I'm right there with you, and I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's why I'm smiling so much, because I never really get to talk about this with guests either. So, if we could just talk about the fact that when you take certain types of cannabis products, you can get yourself to a meditative space where, in my opinion, my third eye, because I believe in chakra alignment and taking care of your mind, body, and spirit to be able to function properly in humanity. One of the things that I've noticed, and I don't even know how I can quantify this, Matthew, other than the fact that I know what I can put out after this happens, meaning things that I think about when this happens. So what I'm trying to say as I talk in all these circles, from a research standpoint, I don't have a validated questionnaire to be able to capture this information today, right? I can develop one for this. So, but I don't have one right now. And what I'm talking about is when you're able to get to that space after, like for me, when I take RSO, Rick Simpson oil, and I combine terpenes that just come right out of a syringe through our program, the combination of the RSO and the terps will allow me to get to a point where I can be very free and open my mind completely to the artistic side of who I am as a human. Most people know me as this corporate research person finding ways to help people therapeutically, and they know me more as a corporate person rather than this whole wellness person, but that's part of who I am. Because without the wellness aspect, I can't understand the therapeutic, in my opinion, the therapeutic aspect. So when I'm able to open my third eye, I can see so many things. Like that's how I created the candles for APA that I backed from the terpene profile in the plant over to aromatherapy. It was because I got myself to this meditative state last year around this time, and it just hit me. I could see it all. I could envision the colors. It was beautiful. It was magical. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And then sure enough, the next day I hit the ground. I found somebody to work with me on that project because I can't make candles, Matthew. I mean, come on. That's not my forte. I know what I want in it, and I know what it wants. Yeah, I want it to look, and I want the effect of it to be, but I can't do that stuff. But that was because of the candles. I mean, because of being able to meditate.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. When I was in my early 20s, I got certified as a Reiki Master.
Oh, yes!
And so, like, opening up that world of the subtle energetic body and being able to feel these subtle energies move through me, out of my hands, and help heal people was incredible. And then I remember one night I was like, I wonder what cannabis will do with this. And so I smoked a little, and then I centered myself and did my Reiki practices. And it was like, I don't know if anybody watches Dragon Ball Z, but it was like a Kamehameha wave. It was just like, it amplified everything 100-fold. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I started feeding to my plants and anybody that was around. And it was amazing. And from there, I was like, okay, this is a unique tool. This is beyond just, maybe music sounds better, or I can giggle with my friends.
Yes.
And when this was, my early 20s, I guess, the early 2000s. So it was before anything was really happening in the space anywhere in the country, but the light bulb started to turn on for me in different ways that it could be used for healing and wellness.
Yep. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? When you have that awakening, like it's a deep awakening that occurs when you allow yourself to do that. And it's so neat because like sometimes on some of my calls, my team knows, obviously they know who I am and how I function, just like, you know that this is how I am. So if I'll go like this down, they know it's crown down, that's where that thought came from. And they know, okay, that's where she got it from. It wasn't a textbook thing, because being empathic, we feel things, right? And so that's even more amplified with cannabis, because we really, because we allow ourselves to feel it. When we're in a different zone, we sometimes put the walls up because we can't allow that to come in because of something we're doing. It's talking to some of these patients that are really ill. I talk to them all the time, right? I've got to sometimes protect myself because I have a tendency to feel so badly for them. Like all these DN patients that I'm talking to right now for the diabetic neuropathy study, I'm talking to a lot of them because they're coming through the nonprofit into the study. So I'm talking to them, and it's so sad when they tell you, they can't walk or they fall down, they can't feel their feet. So they think they're walking, but in actuality, they tripped and now they're on the ground, they can't get up, and it's just terrible. So I've had to learn how to protect myself from feeling everything they feel so much, because I become depressed. Like I don't even want to talk on the phone now because I'm in my head thinking about, well, what else I can do to help these people? What am I missing? I start to drive myself a little because I feel so passionately for these people. So you got to be careful with it, right? You got to keep the wall up when you need to, and then know when to bring the wall down. Sure.
Yeah. Reiki was actually really helpful for that. All these symbols that you get to use to protect yourself and also heal others. And so, I still use those.
The grids.
Symbol. Block myself. Or if I got to leave my car parked in a parking lot for overnight or something.
Yep. I just picked up one of the stones that I keep on I got stuff all over my house.
I have a pyramid on my desk too.
Yeah, isn't that cool? Look at that. That's good for negativity.
Yeah, and it actually puts EMF away. It blocks it out. You can actually put this into a flashlight, and it'll work as a battery.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's a cool stone.
I love that. My son, Krish, since he was a little guy, that's where there was a place I used to go to where I would buy all my crystals. And I've just been busy lately and I haven't had time to go to see them, but I've known them forever. And again, they're where I grew up outside of Phoenixville. And so I was taking Christian when he was still in his little car seat thing into the store and all this stuff. And then when he was old enough to walk, he would walk around and he would just look at the stones and then look up at me. And he's an indigo. So he feels everything, sees everything, knows like instinctively. So he's got a lot of crystals in his room as well. And he has one that he keeps on him all the time for when he's at school, because, you can't really talk about this too much except for the people that are around you. It's almost like cannabis. So, you know what I mean? You can't, it's a little better with cannabis, but, we start talking about
Actually, I was going to say that it's actually more accepted with cannabis.
Right?
Crystals still get a bad rap.
Yeah, they still get a bad rap, and it's like, listen, there's nothing weird about this. It's just part of who we are as humans. And I love the ability to be able to use other types.
I was going to say, there's a lot of scientific backing to.
That's what I was going to say.
You can get a lot of, and everything vibrates at a certain frequency, and all these crystals, they have a certain frequency that they vibrate at, and these different frequencies can have different healing qualities.
Well, look at gold.
What they do.
Yeah, like gold. Like gold. We use gold in our and I have quartz on today. We have gold in our golden nanoparticle magnesium patches. And gold's a carrier, right, for the magnesium and some of the other nutraceuticals that we have in that patch. That's why we use gold. So gold is a carrier, and I wear gold. It's pretty cool if you think about copper. You've got to be careful with copper, though. If you take too much copper, it can become toxic for your body. Gold, not so much, but copper, yes. So you've got to pay attention. You've got to research. So I'm not saying go and buy yourself a bunch of gold and start chewing on it, or copper. But you know what I'm saying? Like, these are all components that help your body heal.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, it takes time, right?
So that magic is just science that nobody understands yet.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things we believe, right? Like, some of the things that we've figured out scientifically in the cannabis space, and even prior to me getting into cannabis, it was a lot of times the things that we figured out were mistakes, and they ended up being beneficial. That's one of the things I love about research. And that's why it's so important to really understand that therapeutic pathway you're trying to go down, because if you understand everything about that disease, you'll look for other things that will be able to help those patients, right? This may help blah, 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 say anxiety or whatever. Then we can take that data and go after anxiety for those patients. So that's what I mean by sometimes things happen by mistake. We get to see a trend that we weren't expecting. And that's awesome. That's one of the things I love about science.
Yeah, those happy accidents.
Yeah, that's right. I love those happy accidents.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
So, Matthew, I was going to say, what do you think next you're going to start working on?
Interesting. Just in general.
Just in general.
I've been in the process of writing a book for the last couple of years.
Really?
And things that I've learned over time. Yeah. It's based around these 6 principles of humanity: eat, move, breathe, think, feel, flow.
Okay.
And it kind of moves through these processes around the idea of perspective, and how when you shift your perspective, everything can change. And so I try to provide as many perspectives as possible around these 6 different categories of life in order to live a more optimized and happy existence. So I'm starting a YouTube channel to bring out a lot of these ideas in little bite-sized manners, and then hopefully it'll help to promote the book when it eventually gets finished. I'm like 2/3 of the way through.
That's so cool. That's so cool, because you can also use those sound bites from your YouTube to help promote your book throughout the duration. Oh, yeah.
It all stacks.
Yeah. That's so cool. I'm excited now, because I want to read this, because it's something that's going to be useful for everyday life. I mean, they could teach this to kids in school, because mindfulness, when we were kids, it's not like it's so different now. I love the fact that schools now believe in mindfulness and believe in the ability of slowing down your breath, taking some time for yourself. It's not weird for you to step away, inhale, exhale, get yourself centered again. I love that it's acceptable now in schools, where when we were kids, it was not. I mean, people would think something was wrong with you. Like, are you hyperventilating? What's wrong? Do you need to go to the nurse?
And I in my book, actually, I take it a step further. I don't want to call it mindfulness, because I don't want to make it a noun. I don't want to make it a thing. I call it mindfuling. Mm-hmm. It's an action.
Right.
It's a constant practice. It's not just like, oh, I'm going to be mindful now. No, I'm in a constant state of mindfuling.
I like that.
To all my conversations, all my movements, and everything.
I love that. That's awesome. I love that. The verb. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, it's like working out every day. It's like just part of what you do. Of course, you eat, you drink, you mindfully as well. So yeah. I like that.
I'm trying to change in my mind. I'm like subtle shifts. I'm trying to change as many nouns to verbs as possible, mm-hmm. because it is fluid, right? Like we have mm-hmm. this moment that is always moving through time. And so even like a workout, I don't work out anymore. It's always training. Mm-hmm. Just subtle little things. Like,
yeah.
Bring more verbs into my vocabulary, because that's what we're doing. I'm a human being, right? So
I like that you brought that up, because that's something I need to do better myself with. I like that idea. So thank you for sharing that with me, because now that's something I can also teach Christian, because it's important for him to, and he's always in action. So for him, verbs are how he lives. Not so much, nouns and pronouns. He's more of a verb kid, because he's always moving. And so I'll have to talk with him, I'll have to talk with him about this, because I'd like to teach him things that I learned that I know he would appreciate.
And I think it's really important just in general, as a person moving through the world, helping with acceptance, helping with patience, all these kinds of things, because if we have a noun-focused language, we tend to view people as static. Mm-hmm. They're this thing that I experienced, and that's what they are and who they are, and that's it. But if we can start to view people as dynamic and mm-hmm. think in terms of action, then we don't actually pigeonhole these people or these things into one little thing. It's like, oh, mm-hmm. this is always changing. It's always growing and evolving.
It's flowing.
It's flowing.
I'm just using one of your words.
Thank you.
I'm paying attention. See that? All right, my friend. Well, we could talk forever, as you can imagine. And when you get ready to launch that book and you're ready to come back on and talk with me again, I would love to have you, because this has been an amazing time. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about yourself with me today, and with all the guests that will be watching the show or listening, whatever they choose to do. So thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's so fun.
Yeah. And so with that, as we always say, we are the same. I am Christina DiArcangelo. Thank you.